everybody, and welcome to this very special conversation that I'm going to be having today at TrackShift. At TrackShift, the purpose of this challenge was to bring together minds that can build using AI, that can build relying on sustainability, that can build with mobility. And that's what we've done by powering this as part of the Emphasis F1 Foundation at the Plaksha University and in collaboration with the MoneyGram Has F1 team. At Emphasis, engineering is in our DNA. The way that we go to market is by enabling all of our solutions to be AI-led and to be driven by the ability for us to make solutions real and apply technology to solve real problems for our clients. And no better way to amplify this by linking this to what we do in the world of sports, where speed, data, and precision is critical. To help us do this, we have partnered with the MoneyGram Has F1 team, where they make sure that all of these three aspects of precision, speed, and also problem solving is brought to life. There's no better person who can amplify this conversation with us than the CIO of MoneyGram Has F1 team, Gary Foote, who has not only solved this problem for himself and the company on track, but has made it real by solving this on his day-to-day life with technology by his side. So Gary, welcome to TrackShift.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for spending the whole day with us. You've witnessed everything that's gone around the whole day today. My first question to you therefore would be, how do you see data and how do you see analytics in the world that you operate in, where from both the pit stops as well as the decisions that need to be made and the strategy that you need to bring to your to the race, for instance, how do you see all of this coming together, and how do you see hackathons like this making that real for you?
Sure. So I think if we break it down, I think the traditional way of looking at Formula One is you've got a car and a driver, and people will argue amongst themselves which has the biggest impact, the car or the driver, and that's one you could debate a lot. But I would argue there's now a third pillar, which is technology and data, which is now sits alongside the car and driver as the ability to impact sport. And so what we've seen is a transition of data across Formula One, from really being a ability for us to sort of get insight into the car and start to understand it. We're now seeing that shift into really being a performance differentiator. So you can have a quick car, you can have a quick driver, but actually if your technology stack and your ability to get data off the car or get data out of simulations, if the ability to not do that there and process it is not there, then you're going to lose competitive advantage. Where that segues into events like this is to start saying, okay, well, the students that we're seeing at this event, and I've been blown away by the caliber of students, really quite incredible. We're giving them this set of resources, a set of finite time, a set of finite people, and asking them to solve a challenge using data and technology. Well, that's what we do day in and day out, across a race weekend or back at the factories. We're solving problems within constraints. And the key is to use technology to your advantage. When you've got these constraints, technology is something you can start to scale. And if you get that right, that's when you start to see, in our world, we're chasing, lap time and chasing car reliability. And if we do it right, just like they're trying to do on the hackathon, then you're going to get competitive advantage.
Wow. I mean, I think in your world, there is no scope or no room for error, right? You have to be precise, to the point, and make sure that anything from data to accuracy to speed to the technology, everything has to just marry and blend itself well.
It does, yeah. I mean, the data is now, so critical to running the car. I was chatting with one of the students earlier, and I sort of said, with the fact that all of the members of the team now can have an impact, you only need, one data person to get one data point wrong, or one IT guy to put a cable in one wrong port on a switch, and that really can bring the team to its knees. So data now has gone from, it's always been really from the early 70s. We've been capturing data in some form to try and understand the car, but now what we're seeing is data transform into that performance impact, and we've got to make sure that we don't cross a boundary of risk into safety.
Sure.
When we're asking not just the drivers to drive at incredible speeds, but we're asking our team members to work under incredible pressure, and we need to make sure that we're using all that data responsibly to ensure, number one is safety, car reliability and performance comes after that.
Well said. And as you know, there are 50 top students who've got shortlisted to be part of this hackathon, and you saw them all coming together, collaborating with each other, excited about what they can do in terms of creating solutions which can be adopted. So that brings me to the question to you, Gary, that when you were growing up, did you have environment or an ecosystem like this to collaborate with maybe fellow students and create something which then got adopted in real world? Did you see all of this happening?
Not directly as incredible as the environments that we're now creating, no. And that in itself is exciting to see, right? Because let's fast forward 10 years, right? And we're on the AI bubble right now, and we've seen these seismic technology bubbles. We saw blockchain, we saw cloud, we saw digital transformation. We're on the AI bubble. We are on the hype curve. We know that, but we're now saying to these students, we can't even predict the job you're going to be doing in 5 years because the landscape is changing so much. So by putting in these types of foundations, we're starting to be able to help shift the narrative almost on how these, incredible minds are going to ultimately, they're going to run our sports, they're going to run our countries in the future. And it's these environments that kind of foster that. If I roll back to when I was doing coding at a young age, the environment wasn't there as polished as it is now, but under the skin it still was. We still solved problems within a set of constraints, right? Sure. And that's, when we strip engineering back, that's all we're doing. And I think that environment has been there since, long before I was born.
You make a great point, which is something that I was discussing when I was with the Plaksha team and also with my own mentors as part of how do you keep these students engaged post the track shift challenge, right? They're in this hackathon environment, they've got the solution, they've ideated well.
Yep.
But it becomes as much challenging for us to make sure that these students keep engaged with us. Because I'm sure you know that once the students who won, they're identified and they're celebrated, they then get an opportunity to work as interns with emphasis. Mm-hmm. And that becomes critical for us to nurture them till that point that they start working. So what would you recommend for us? Or what do you think should be the way that we should continue to engage with them?
Yeah, I mean, you use the word nurture, I think is a great word to use. You're creating a journey almost, aren't you? Like you say, first of all, we've picked real world examples. So, they're challenges that we see on the race team. They're challenges that we didn't just pluck up for a story. We looked at them and said, actually, we know we're going to have 50 of the greatest minds gathering together. Let's give them some problems that we really do need solving. So first of all, we create a genuine story. I think that's part one. And then part two is to say, okay, how do we bring that forward so that they feel like their creations extend beyond the 24 hours? The hackathon will complete tomorrow, and all of the students will put their heart and souls into it, of course. But we need to make sure that we then nurture that story, by bringing them into an internship with emphasis. What a great way of saying, okay, let's build on that. You created something, let's make it more powerful, more reliable, more economic. And then that third stage is to say, okay, well, how can we commercialize that? How can we take that to market? How can we impact Formula One, other elite sports? And by creating that narrative, you give people the sense of belonging rather than a hard cut off, right? That's done, that's delivered. They can see further. And I think actually that will motivate them more across this 24 hours, having that visibility.
Good insights, and I'm sure we'll follow through with all that you're recommending so that we continue to nurture and stay engaged with them. How did you feel when you walked in and people saw you in your jersey and they started literally mobbing you and they came and started speaking to you about the love for the sport? I mean, for us in India, as you know, cricket is the end of all from a sports standpoint. But when they saw you, and some students really impressed you with their knowledge of the sport itself. So what do you have to say about that, Gary?
I think the first thing is to really stress that it's a privilege for me to be here. You know, I'm a digital IT guy by day, but outside of that, I have a huge passion for STEM and STEM education, and so there really is the honour is mine to be able to come in and be inspired by some really quite incredibly intelligent people. I got questions asked that I could not answer, and I'm okay with that. You know, I think as leaders, it's really important that we recognise that, you know, our value add in terms of technical ability, you know, it starts to shift, you know, throughout our careers. And so I'm happy to meet with those students and learn from them just as much as I hope they take wisdom from me and my experience. So, you know, I was lucky enough to meet quite a number of students. Really great to see great female representation in the room as well. I think that's something that we're doing a good job in STEM, but we can always do better. And it'll be great to see. I know that this is going to be a regular program. It'll be great to see that improve and see the diversity across technology change. So yeah, really a privilege to be in that environment. And you know, I'm always happy to do selfies. That's a great thing. I feel like a celebrity for a few moments. But ultimately, I'm here to demonstrate not just how, you know, HACCP1 and emphasis, but actually industry as a whole. Demonstrate that industry is supporting these young adults coming through and saying, you know, I was talking with a gentleman earlier and saying that the narrative has shifted where, you know, these bright minds, they have options. They come out of their college degrees, their university degrees, their further education, and there's great options for them. There's more jobs than there are good candidates. And so now, you know, I want Formula One being in the corner saying, pick us, because ultimately these, you know, these bright minds are going to have the option to go into aerospace or manufacturing or so many areas. And so for us to be able to be involved as a sport and as a company is our way of demonstrating our commitment to help fostering talent, but also hopefully that as they come through that they will see us as a viable place to take their brilliance.
I'm sure they can't wait to probably get an opportunity to work on projects or real life solutions or problems that you throw up to them. You know, you made an important point about you know, more women and girls getting into STEM education, and that's precisely why when we had an opportunity to be part of the Plaksha University and have a center, a DS Brar Center for young girls and women in STEM education, we thought it was a great way to bring that whole focus and also bring the diversity of having more women to come in and participate in technology and contribute to solving for problems. I think on that we are on the same page, and it's really fortunate.
Industry and sport will be better for it.
Absolutely, 100% it will be better. I agree with you. Now coming back to the fact that I saw you roaming around the whole room and talking to almost, maybe you even lost your voice when you were talking to so many students. What stood out in their approach in terms of their thinking or you know, throw some light on that? Yeah,
okay, so what stood out immediately was the laser focus. That was really quite impressive. You know, I almost felt I was interrupting, and that's a good problem to have. Yeah, because you could see how, I think when we started talking to people, maybe 2 hours in, right? So, you know, not a huge amount into the 24 hours. And then there was one particular team, they got all these notes all scribbled out on a bit of paper. And I thought, you know, goodness, in the 2 hours you've been here, you've not wasted any time. You know, they're straight on it, they're solutioning, they're architecting their design. They'd already worked out, I think it was a 3-person team, who was doing what, and you know, you've got to kind of remind yourself, you know, these are young adults. These are not hardened industry professionals with 30 years behind their CV. These are youngsters who are you know, navigating, you know, their first.
Get charged up.
Yeah, exactly. And to see that level of organisation and to see that level of precision and focus was impressive. I loved that. And then probably the collaboration and the ability for them to work together. You know, we spoke to teams where they'd been from the same university, but we also spoke, I think I was with you, we spoke to a team where it was just 3 people who'd met at a hackathon, just sat next to each other. What a great story.
What a great
story.
So
already they're learning those soft skills of, we've got to solve a problem and we need to collaborate, and I'm going to collaborate with the, you know, guy to the left and the girl to the right and come together to solve problems. You know, they're great life skills, and they're skills that in industry we're now probably putting as much emphasis into looking for those skills as we are for raw technical ability. So they put themselves in good light in that regard.
Excellent. And we gave them 3 scenarios to work on. One was on how do they get the whole real data, and how do they build analytics around that, or how do they visualize, so bring in the element of visualization, and then also how do they simulate the whole thing and make it more solution oriented. Did you find any solutions so far which came close to what were the topics, or you still think there's some time that we need to give them to arrive at some favorites?
I already, yes, definitely got some favourites, but I'm not going to say them just yet. I think what impressed me though is the topics have maybe been diversified more than I was expecting, and that's not a bad thing. So we gave them very kind of headline topics, but I've seen different interpretations of that, and that's actually what I'm quite excited about tomorrow. Maybe naivety on my part, I thought we'd have these kind of a bunch of teams doing this problem, and this problem. But actually we're seeing those problems stretched into different areas. If we take one of the challenges is around visual technology. And I've seen teams talking about how they're going to look at moisture levels on the circuit. I've seen teams talking about how we're looking at tyre degradation. Teams talking about sponsor logos changing on. That's all That's all under one column, but such diverse use cases. So I think that's been fun to see, and I think we'll get a much bigger feel for that tomorrow. How we'll see those differentiations. Another challenge was about file movement, and I got some great questions from one team, but they didn't just ask questions around the problem. They wanted to understand what we do today, because they said you must have something that does this to a degree. And I thought that was really interesting. And as I was talking to them about today's solution, because they're designing tomorrow's solution, right? They were scribbling these notes down, and there were some technologies that I name dropped that they weren't aware of, and they were going to go back and research it. And again, it's that demonstration of that lateral thinking. Rather than just kind of making an assumption and going for it, they wanted to learn and understand, to contextualize their solutions. So again, really impressive skills.
No, and I saw when you were speaking to somebody about SD-WAN.
SD-WAN,
right?
yes.
They actually ran back to ask you what it means.
Yes.
And that really makes you think that they didn't go to ChatGPT, or they didn't go to OpenAI or Perplexity to find out. They wanted to have human conversation. So that really brings the element of how human in the loop is so important, how it is important to collaborate, and these kind of ecosystems that we build together. And I thank you for partnering with us on that. Just brings a different set or a breed of talent that is coming up. So what do you think? Do you think India is a great place to find much more better talent than what it used to be? What's your view?
Unquestionably, I think in terms of the diversification of talent globally, we are as an elite sport, we're chasing marginal gains. It's a bit of an overused phrase, but it's true. We're trying to find differentiating factors in everywhere, and I say we're quick to focus on the car and the driver, and we talked earlier about that focus on technology. But then there's the human element. I call it almost race day execution almost. And that's where the talent and the gains that we can get through exceptional talent. And if we put blinkers on and we only look at a talent pool from a particular geographic area, or a particular demographic, or a particular sex, we are putting blinkers on. We're not opening our eyes to this huge amount of talent. And one of the organisers from Plashka was telling me just earlier how they're trying to target these events with sort of second and third tier educational facilities. And what an amazing way of saying, okay, there's this huge amount of talent across India, and so much of it is not getting noticed. How do we find that talent?
How do you plug them in?
Exactly. And that's at the educational level. We're an industry level, right? Both of us sitting behind the education layer. And, we want to be able to look over the wall at education and say, okay, you've gone out and found these incredible talent. Like, can we have some of those, please?
No, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on its head to say that, we have the privilege to be able to actually identify and pull out this talent and use them into some of the best solutions that they can bring for way forward. And this probably brings me to the last question. MoneyGram has F1 is my favorite team.
Of
right?
course, mine too.
Yeah. But how is it like working with Emphasis? How has the partnership gone so far for you? What do you think stands out about us? How do you see us as being able to work with you on some of the solutions that we are envisaging together?
The key word you used is partnership. And I speak for all F1 teams when I say, we all have a partner network that we value. But I think where it has a bigger differentiator at a team like Haas is, we know we operate with a smaller headcount and a smaller budget than some of our competitors. And so one could argue our reliance on our partner network and the expertise is maybe more critical, or certainly can have a bigger impact. So, we've been working with Emphasis for a year now, and the expertise that the incredible people that company employs that can have an impact on our race team, is only going to take us to new heights. We know we're in a very competitive sport. We know that every tiny differentiator could be the difference between, a points finish or a podium or, a championship place. And so it's important that we are able to lean on expertise of people who do what they do well. We race cars really well, and Emphasis do, digital technology and AI and emerging tech so well. So it's a complete natural marry-up where we look over and say, bring your expertise into the team, just like you can do with commercial industry. Looking at, anyone that does their product good, they need to rely on strategic partners to bring in that expertise to ultimately elevate their game. That's what we're chasing.
Thank you, Gary, for being such a phenomenal partner. Thank you for doing this for the students, for doing this for Emphasis F1 Foundation, and for doing this for Plaksha University.
No, honestly, the pleasure is...
I hope you have the rest of the 20 hours as exciting as it has been so far for you.
I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see what they come up with.
And I hope you hold some voice back, because you...
It's okay.
you still need to... They're not going to leave you just like that.
That's all good. It's all good.
So thanks
for having me. It really is a privilege.